My name is Lena Brooks, and I am 46 years old. 6 months ago, my husband tried to take the surgical center I built, erase my name from its history, and threaten the medical license I had spent half my life earning. He believed I was too exhausted to fight him. He was wrong. The mediation room sat 20 floors above Nashville. Gray glass, polished wood, and air conditioning cold enough to make my hands ache. Grant sat across from me, calm and clean-shaven, as if we were discussing a lease instead of ending our marriage. He pushed a document across the table. According to the first page, Brooks Children's Surgical Center had been founded, financed, and managed by Grant Brooks. My name appeared 3 paragraphs later under clinical personnel. Not co-founder, not owner, employee. The settlement offered me a small monthly payment in exchange for surrendering every share I held in the center, every claim to the building, and every right to challenge the family trust that now controlled both. I read the page twice, although I knew every line. Grant leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Sign it, Lena. If you refuse, I'll submit the competency file to the medical board. Failed procedures, emotional instability, poor judgment caused by exhaustion. You know how investigations work. Even when you win, your reputation never recovers." He smiled because he believed the threat had reached the right place. My hands, my patience, the one part of my life he had never controlled. In the waiting room next door, Maya Collins sat with champagne. Grant had promised that once I signed, she would become its new legal partner, and soon after, the next Mrs. Brooks. His parents were waiting for the call that would tell them the family trust owned everything. Grant watched me stare at the signature line. What he saw was fear. What I was doing was giving him one final chance to claim, in writing, that every account, transfer, loan, and shell company had always been under his exclusive control. Before I tell you what happened when he signed, subscribe and tell me whether someone has ever tried to use your greatest sacrifice against you. Because to understand why I let Grant believe he had won, we have to go back 6 months to 2 o'clock in the morning, after a 12-hour surgery and one security alert that changed everything. Grant and I did not begin as enemies. 14 years earlier, we were 2 tired people eating takeout on the floor of a rented clinic because we could not yet afford furniture. I was 32, finishing a fellowship in pediatric surgery and carrying more debt than confidence. Grant understood contracts, lenders, and the language people used when they wanted money without admitting they were afraid. I understood children's hearts, operating rooms, and the silence parents fell into when they needed hope more than facts. Together, we believed that was enough. Brooks Children's Surgical Center began with 3 examination rooms, 1 procedure suite, and a second-hand reception desk Grant found at an office liquidation sale. I sold the small apartment my mother had left me and invested every dollar into equipment, payroll, and the first 6 months of rent. Grant handled the paperwork. I handled the patients. His parents helped us secure the building. Richard signed the original property agreement, and Elaine told me it was only temporary until the center became stable. She used to bring soup during my night shifts and call me the daughter she had always wanted. On our 10th anniversary, she showed me the Brooks family necklace, a strand of old pearls kept in a velvet box. "This will be yours at 15 years, she said. "You earned your place in this family." I believed her. The early years were difficult, but they were ours. Grant slept on the office couch while I completed emergency procedures. I reviewed budgets beside him at midnight. He learned the names of my patients, and I learned which banks returned his calls. When the center nearly failed during its 3rd year, I took extra hospital shifts to keep the staff paid. Grant stood in our kitchen one morning, held my face in both hands, and told me the center existed because of my skill and my courage. I remembered that sentence for years. As the practice grew, so did my schedule. Families came from across Tennessee and neighboring states. I became responsible for cases other surgeons would not take, which meant more nights away from home and more mornings when Grant woke alone. He never complained directly. He said he was proud of me. He said the financial side bored me and that I should focus on saving children while he protected what we were building. So I trusted him. I stopped reading every monthly statement. I signed documents between surgeries. I let Grant speak for us in meetings because I believed marriage meant dividing the work, not guarding yourself from the person beside you. By our 14th year, the center had 70 employees, 2 operating suites, and a waiting list months long. From the outside, we looked successful. Inside, Grant had already begun turning my trust into paperwork that would one day be used to erase me. I did not know it then. I only knew I was tired and that Grant kissed my forehead before every overnight shift. The night everything changed began with a little boy named Noah Bennett. He was 7, born with a defect in the wall of his heart, and by the time his parents reached our center, 2 hospitals had turned them away. The surgery was expected to take 8 hours. It took 12. At 1:47 inches the morning, I closed the final incision and watched Noah's blood pressure steady. His mother cried when I told her he had made it through. His father held my hands and thanked me until his voice broke. Those moments kept me in medicine. Not awards, not headlines. A child breathing because a room full of exhausted people refused to give up. By the time I reached the staff changing room, my shoulders were burning and my scrubs carried the faint marks of a long procedure. I sat on the bench, took out my phone, and opened a message to Grant. Still awake? I typed. I miss you. Before I could send it, a security alert appeared. Motion detected. Executive conference suite. The administrative floor should have been empty. The cleaning crew had left hours earlier, and Grant had told me he was home reviewing contracts before bed. I opened the live feed expecting a guard or someone from maintenance. Instead, I saw champagne. 4 glasses stood on the conference table beside an open bakery box and several folders marked with the Brooks Family Trust logo. Richard sat near the window. Elaine stood beside a velvet jewelry case. Maya Collins leaned against the table in a fitted black dress. Grant stood behind her with both hands around her waist. For 1 second, my mind refused to understand. Then he bent his head and kissed the side of her neck. Maya laughed, turned toward him, and he kissed her again without fear of being caught. His parents watched. That was what broke something inside me. Not the kiss, the comfort of it. No one in that room looked surprised. Elaine opened the velvet case and lifted out the Brooks pearls. I had seen that necklace only twice, once in an old family portrait and once when Elaine promised it would become mine on our 15th anniversary. She stepped behind Maya and fastened it around her neck. It suits you better, Elaine said. A sharp young attorney belongs beside my son, not someone who smells like disinfectant and disappears 6 nights a week. Maya touched the pearls and smiled at her reflection in the window. Grant poured another glass. Lena won't notice anything, he said. I moved the overnight schedule months ago. She thinks the extra cases are because demand is growing. Richard glanced at the folders. And the building transfer? Already moving through the trust. She signs whatever I put in front of her between surgeries. They laughed. Grant raised his glass. She is downstairs earning the money that will cover the debt. By the time she understands, the divorce will be final and Maya will be sitting in Lena's office. Elaine lifted her champagne. To the future, Mrs. Brooks. 4 glasses touched. I sat beneath the fluorescent lights, listening to the family I trusted, celebrate my replacement with money I had earned, and a necklace I once believed meant I belonged. Tears came before I could stop them. I let them fall for less than a minute. I wanted to call him, demand an explanation, and force every person in that room to look at what they had done to me. Then I looked again at the folders. The affair was only the visible wound. The real damage was hidden in those documents. I saved the video, copied it to a private account Grant did not know existed, and began recording the screen. A surgeon does not cut until she knows the full shape of what must be removed. That night, I decided I would find out. I went home at 4:30 that morning and found Grant asleep on his side of the bed. I stood in the doorway and watched him breathe. His phone rested on the nightstand. His wedding ring lay beside it. Everything looked ordinary enough to make me question what I had seen. Then he opened his eyes. How did it go? He asked. 12 hours, I said. But Noah made it. Grant smiled, reached for my hand, and kissed my knuckles. I knew you would save him. The tenderness in his voice was worse than the video. I showered, lay beside him, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. By noon, I had called an attorney named Evelyn Hart and a forensic accountant named Samuel Ortiz. I told them what I could prove. My husband controlled the center's finances. I had seen him discussing a property transfer, and I believed documents were being signed in my name. Evelyn gave me one instruction. Do not confront him until we know what he has built. So I kept working. During the day, I operated. At night, Samuel traced the money. The first report arrived 9 days later. Over 3 years, Grant had moved nearly $1.8 million from the surgical center into consulting companies tied to Richard. The invoices described strategic planning, facility management, and lender relations. Several companies had no employees, offices, or work product anyone could identify. The building transfer was worse. The center had paid for renovations, taxes, and most of the mortgage, but Richard had transferred the property into the Brooks Family Medical Trust for $1 and continued family consideration. Elaine was the controlling trustee. Grant had prepared the documents. My signature appeared on 2 supporting resolutions. I had never seen either one. Then Samuel showed me the record of my mother's apartment. I had sold it for $312,000 when Grant and I opened the center. I remembered wiring the money and believing I was buying half of our future. In the company ledger, Grant had recorded it as a personal gift to the Brooks family, with no ownership interest attached. That hurt differently from the affair. Grant had taken the last thing my mother left me and rewritten it as something I had given to his family out of gratitude. The financial betrayal was only the beginning. Evelyn obtained a draft competency complaint from a consultant Grant had hired. It listed 3 surgical cases with complications, 2 notes describing me as emotionally exhausted, and 1 incident in which I had raised my voice during an emergency. Every detail had been stripped of context. 1 child had arrived without complete records. Another had an undiagnosed clotting disorder. The emergency involved a faulty monitor Grant had delayed replacing because he said the budget was tight. My outcomes told a different story. My survival rates were above the national average. My peer reviews were strong. No family had filed a complaint. Grant knew all of that. He was not documenting concern. He was manufacturing doubt. If this part of Lena's story feels familiar, tell me in the comments. Sometimes the cruelest betrayal is not what someone does behind your back. It is the story they prepare to tell about why you deserved it. The discovery came from Maya's name. She appeared as legal representative for 3 companies holding the center's debt. On paper, she had approved transfers, guaranteed loans, and certified records that did not match the books. But none of those documents gave her the ownership Grant had promised. Instead, Grant had prepared a letter blaming Maya for every irregular transaction. If the scheme collapsed, she would be the explanation. And if it succeeded, she would be disposable. That was when I understood I was no longer looking at an affair. I was looking at a system designed to replace one woman with another, then sacrifice whichever one became inconvenient first. The file Evelyn gave me had nothing to do with Maya. It was a draft partnership agreement between Grant and Hensley Medical Group, a hospital network in Atlanta. The agreement would transfer Brooks Children's Surgical Center, its patient contracts and licenses into a new corporation after our divorce. A note was attached. Once Lena is out, finalize after engagement announcement. The woman Grant planned to marry was Carolyn Hensley, the founder's daughter. Maya was not his future. She was a bridge. The pearls, the champagne, Elaine's promise that Maya would take my office, none of it had been real. Grant and his parents had staged a future for her because they needed her signature long enough to move the debt, hide transfers, and remove me. When her usefulness ended, they intended to leave her holding the paperwork. Maya had known Grant was married. She had kissed him in my conference room and accepted a necklace promised to me. Being deceived did not erase what she had chosen, but it gave me leverage. I asked Evelyn to arrange a meeting at a coffee shop near Centennial Park. Maya arrived late wearing a suit and the Brooks pearls. "I have nothing to say to you," she said. "That makes this easier. You only need to read." I placed 3 folders between us. The first contained companies registered in her name and loan guarantees, carrying her electronic signature. The second held Grant's draft letter accusing her of unauthorized transfers and professional misconduct. The third contained the Hensley agreement and a photograph of Grant dining with Caroline. Maya read the first folder. She slowed down on the second. By the third, her hands were trembling. "He told me Caroline was an investor." "She is. She is also the woman he plans to marry after he sells the center. You forged this. Call the filing office. Call the lender. Call Caroline." The call lasted 4 minutes. Maya asked 3 questions, listened, and ended it without saying goodbye. Grant had promised her 20% of the center. The documents gave her no equity, only legal responsibility. He had promised the divorce was nearly complete. It had not even been filed. He had promised his parents considered her family. They had approved the Hensley agreement. Maya set down the phone. "What do you want?" "The truth." "You want revenge." "I want my name removed from crimes I did not commit. You should want the same." I showed her the letter Grant had prepared. "If investigators reach those companies, the first person named will be you. Grant is using you as a shield. If you keep protecting him, you may lose your license before he does. And if I help you, You tell investigators what you signed, what Grant told you, and what his parents knew. You surrender every message and recording. My attorney will document that you cooperated before charges are filed. You cannot promise immunity. No, I can promise evidence. Maya touched the pearls at her throat. Elaine said these belonged to the next Mrs. Brooks. They belonged to whoever she needed to control. Maya removed the necklace and placed it beside the folders. I knew he was married, she said. I believed him when he said you had agreed to leave. I did not ask enough questions because I liked the answers. It was not an apology, but it was honest. I did not forgive her. I gave her Evelyn's number. Within 48 hours, Maya turned over 6 months of messages, 3 recordings, and documents Grant had ordered her to destroy. One recording captured Richard explaining how the family trust would keep the building beyond my reach. Another captured Elaine telling Maya to wait until I became too unstable to operate. The most useful recording was Grant's voice. If Lena signs away the shares, she owns none of the assets and still looks responsible for the medical side. If anything goes wrong, everyone will believe the exhausted surgeon made the mistakes. That sentence became the center of our case. For the next 6 months, Maya continued playing the woman Grant trusted. I continued playing the wife he had broken. I stopped asking about finances. I left board meetings early and allowed Grant to see me rubbing my temples. When he suggested I take temporary leave, I said I was considering it. I never endangered a patient. In the operating room, my hands remained steady, and every decision was reviewed by colleagues who knew nothing about the investigation. Outside it, I gave Grant what arrogance required: room. He borrowed more, moved more accounts, and signed documents claiming exclusive control. Richard expanded the trust. Elaine ordered furniture for the house Grant had promised Maya, unaware Maya was sending every receipt to Evelyn. At home, Grant became gentler as he became more dangerous. He brought me tea, told me I had worked too hard, and said surrendering the center would finally let me rest. Sometimes I wondered whether he had loved me or only what my skill could build for him. Then I stopped asking questions that could not save me. A surgeon cannot negotiate with a malignant growth. She identifies its boundaries, protects what is healthy, and waits for the safest moment to cut. By the morning of our mediation, Grant believed the disease had won. He had no idea I had already mapped every inch of it. Grant was already seated when I entered the mediation room. He wore the Navy suit I had bought him and looked certain the outcome had already been decided. Richard and Elaine waited down the hall. Maya sat beside them with champagne. Grant's attorney reviewed the agreement. I would surrender my shares in Brooks Children's Surgical Center, waive any claim to the building, and accept a modest settlement. In return, Grant would refrain from pursuing concerns regarding my professional fitness. The sentence sounded generous. It was extortion. Grant tapped the signature line. This is the last clean offer you are going to get. Before I sign, I want one clarification entered into the record. His attorney glanced at Grant. What clarification? That Grant has exercised exclusive control over the center's finances, borrowing, property transfers, and affiliated companies for the past 3 years. Grant almost smiled. That is exactly what I have been telling you. And Lena had no role in approving those transactions? My attorney asked. Lena operated. I ran the business. Every account? Yes. Every loan? Yes. Every company connected to the family trust? His attorney touched his sleeve, but Grant pulled away. Yes, all of it. The court reporter read the statement back. Grant approved it without changing a word. Then I signed. Grant stared at my name beneath the surrender clause. The satisfaction on his face was so complete that I understood why greed makes people careless. He signed immediately, accepting full operational control and the authority he had spent months insisting belonged only to him. The notary sealed the final page. Grant exhaled. It is done. Yes, I said. It is. The door opened. Evelyn Hart entered with 2 financial crimes investigators and a federal tax attorney. One investigator placed a seizure order on the table. Grant's attorney stood. What is this? A financial investigation, Evelyn said. The center's records, the Brooks Family Medical Trust, and 3 affiliated companies are now subject to seizure orders. Grant looked at me. I slid the agreement toward him. Congratulations. You just confirmed under oath that you controlled every account, loan, transfer, and shell company under investigation. His face tightened. You set me up. No, I asked who made the decisions. You insisted the answer was you. He grabbed the agreement, but his attorney stopped him. The document has been notarized, she said. Destroying this copy changes nothing. Grant turned toward the door. Maya! She entered without the champagne. The pearls were gone. She placed a flash drive beside the seizure order. What did you do? Grant asked. What you should have done months ago, Maya said. I told the truth. The drive contained Grant's messages, Richard's instructions regarding the trust, Elaine's conversations about removing me, and recordings of Grant explaining how Maya would be blamed if authorities discovered the filings. It also contained the video from 2 o'clock in the morning. Evelyn played the relevant section. Grant's voice filled the room. She is downstairs earning the money that will cover the debt. By the time she understands, the divorce will be final. Then Richard asked about the building transfer, and Grant explained that my overnight schedule kept me away from the administrative floor. No one needed to hear the kiss. The words were enough. His victory had lasted only seconds. Grant's confidence collapsed into anger. She signed those documents too. Some signatures were copied, Evelyn said. Others were obtained between procedures without disclosure. Your emails describe the method. He pointed at Maya. She handled the companies. Maya opened a folder. And you prepared a letter blaming me before the investigation began? I turned it over with everything else. Grant had no version of events left that his own words had not contradicted. His phone rang. Elaine. He did not answer. An investigator informed him that the family trust had been frozen and property connected to disputed transfers could not be sold. The Brooks pearls were included in the inventory Maya had surrendered. Elaine had used that necklace to announce my replacement. Now it was evidence. The investigations lasted more than a year. The medical board cleared me after reviewing my outcomes in the altered competency file. Grant was charged with financial fraud, falsifying records, tax offenses, and coercion connected to his threats against my license. Richard and Elaine faced separate proceedings involving the trust. Maya lost her position and appeared before a disciplinary panel. Her cooperation mattered, but it did not erase her choices. We never became friends. We simply became two women who stopped protecting the same lie. Brooks Children's Surgical Center did not survive in its original form. I let the name go. My mother's apartment money was recognized as my separate contribution. I used it to establish the Helen Ward Pediatric Surgery Fund at a public hospital in Nashville. A year later, I became chief of pediatric surgery there. Grant once believed the nights I spent saving children proved I was unfit to be a wife. What he never understood was that those nights had taught me patience, precision, and the courage to remove what could no longer be allowed to grow. A surgeon does not hate a tumor. She identifies it, protects what is healthy, and cuts it away. If someone has ever tried to turn your sacrifice into evidence against you, remember this. Their version of your story is not the same thing as the truth.